We are live. Hello, today I'm so happy that I have a guest. It's my honor to present Barın Kayaoğlu. Yeah, I think it's very nice to have somebody Turkish here. I'm so happy and I think I'm proud of you. And let's talk about you, and I really wonder your story. I'm curious about your story. Tell us your story. What is
Hi,
the main?
Funda. First of all, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. First of all, thanks for having me on your show. First off, I would say that, careful what you wish for, you just might get it. You said you were proud of having a Turk on the show, and I'm not sure if you're going to feel the same way at the end of the show. You never know how it goes with me, okay? So fair warning to you and your viewers. My story briefly is I was born in Ankara, and both of my parents were civil servants. My father was posted to the Turkish embassy in Baghdad, Iraq, in 1985, and I started first grade there. Then we back to Turkey. Then we moved to Beirut, where I finished high school in the 1990s, and then I started university at Bilkent, also in my hometown of Ankara. Then I went to the United States for my doctorate. I finished my doctorate in 2014 in history at the University of Virginia. I worked as an analyst and consultant and part-time news editor in Washington, D.C. for about 2 years. Then I got a job here at my current place of employment, the American University of Iraq-Süleymaniye. Last year, I became the dean of students here, but I'm also still working as a professor. That's a very, very highly condensed version of my story.
I told you I'm proud of you. Actually,
Wow.
there are some notes, and they're saying hello. There are some people out there, and
good to see them.
Well, I have another curiosity. And what about first trip to United States? And I know that you're from Bilkent and you can speak easily English if you're from Bilkent. So tell us about experience in the United States, about the language part and experience part. I mean, how you deal with the language things, because I think you improved your English while you were in the United States, I guess. Maybe pronunciation, maybe the way you speak, and the form, the usage form.
Definitely the usage, the sayings, the metaphorical concepts that one uses both in a professional capacity and in day-to-day conversations. I definitely picked that up in the United States. And certainly living in the United States for, I guess, plus or minus 10 years, gave me the self-confidence to express myself with no problems. I still had an above-average command of English then compared to many of my peers, though, owing to starting first grade at an international school in Baghdad, Iraq, continuing in Beirut, Lebanon, and then I still went to schools when I was home in Turkey. In middle school, I still went to an English medium university, English language medium middle school. So I had the advantage of never losing at least spoken English. Now, written English was a completely different beast because writing is something very different than talking. And later on, if you want, we can go into that too. But having the confidence to speak is, you either initially have it or you don't. And because I was simply born, how normal human beings are born with a dial of shame and sort of self-awareness. I didn't have that. I still don't. I would just go straight into things, knowing that pretending I know what I'm doing when I still don't. But that has never stopped me from expressing myself. So yeah, that's how I would answer that one. Not sure if it is.
Thanks for Melone. Considering the past experience, right, did you like to live most, or where would you like to be? Mm.
Well, honestly, I'm 41 years old, and I no longer feel where I am is as important as what I'm doing with my life. I really like my job here. I love the people I work with. I love my students, even when they drive me crazy, which they do on a day-to-day basis. They don't even let up on the weekends. Actually, that's not true. They do let up on the weekends. These days, I seldom get any emails from either students or colleagues on a weekend, which is really nice. I can't lie. But it's really the work that's meaningful. Of course, despite all my flaws, I like to think that I have a pretty decent work ethic. So I like to, as we say in Turkish, I like to grab by four hands whatever it is that I'm doing in life. So I love my job. I love being a teacher. I love being an administrator. You know, helping to improve administrative processes in an academic environment. As I said, I'm the son of civil servants. My brother is also a civil servant, so it's almost in my blood, if you will, to working in an organizational capacity and trying to be an efficient cog. So I wouldn't really say I have anywhere in particular like I'm obsessed to live in. Although in retirement, which is still at least 20 years away, if not 30, 40 years away, I really would like to see much of the world. I've had the chance to visit a lot of places in Europe. Obviously, I lived in the United States for 10 years. I had the good fortune of visiting Southeast Asia before the pandemic during winter break.
What?
So there are a lot of places I want to see. I don't know if living there, however, would be the same thing. So one has to approach that with caution, I would say.
I know that you like traveling, like me. So I think she's just trying to ask that where do you want to settle down? I mean, you have been, working and living other countries, or I think, are you going to go back to your hometown, your country,
So Ankara to live, I don't know. I'm not opposed to the notion, but I'm very happy where I am right now. One of the things about the pandemic is I have a bit of a tinge of conscience because I've been reading all of these stories about how, all of these things that give people pleasure, going out shopping, sitting down at a cafeteria, at a cafe and having a tea or coffee with friends, going out for a walk, going to the gym for exercise. A lot of people were denied, including in my current hometown of Süleymaniye here in Iraq, have been denied that opportunity. Whereas I had basically all of this campus to myself and a few neighbors that I have. There was about a dozen people, colleagues who live on campus. Most of the rest of our colleagues live in a different housing compound in the city. But here we are on campus, and furthermore, I had complete access to the university gym. So all throughout the pandemic, while everything was shut down, I had the good fortune of going to the gym every day. So I worked very, very diligently, which is why I stopped going a month ago. Then I was going to give myself a bit of a break for maybe 2 weeks. But then about 10 days ago, I got sick. And then since then, I've been just eating junk food and enjoying myself. But even then, I didn't put on a lot of weight, thanks to the 7 or 8 months of hard work I put in. So in that respect, I feel very, very fortunate. I don't have anything against Süleymaniye. Quite the opposite. The city has been very good to me. I really enjoy, the people I work with the local folks. They're very friendly, towards foreigners especially, including people from across the border towards Turks, Iranians, Syrians. There are people from all over the region and the world. So I'm very fortunate in that respect. So to answer your question in a different way, I wouldn't mind going back to Ankara to, say, work for my alma mater, another university in Ankara or in Istanbul or Izmir or Antalya or, I don't know, Adana, Diyarbakir, Trabzon, somewhere back home. But it would still have to give me the sense of fulfillment I have from my current job. And that's either going back home or moving to a third party country. Wherever I go, I hope I can feel as satisfied and find meaning in my work as I do right now.
Okay, I'm really curious. How long have you been living abroad, and what things change in your life?
How long I've been living abroad is sort of, you can take that question in two ways, either in terms of aggregate time or the last time I left home. The aggregate time has actually almost been, when you add it up, it's come to almost half of my life. About 20 years of my life I spent outside Turkey. But as I said, I moved here to Süleymaniye about 4.5 years ago. Before that, I was in the United States. I visited Afghanistan and Iran briefly for my research when I was doing my doctorate. I was also in Turkey for about 10 months, about 15 months. And before that, I had started my doctorate in the United States, again, another 4 years. So the last time I lived home permanently in Ankara was in 2005. So my most recent absence from home, from Ankara, has started in 2005. So, and when you add up the previous 6 years in Lebanon and Iraq, it comes to about 21 years. I'm 41 years old. You know, more than half of my life I've spent abroad. So, as to what things have changed in my life, that's a very good question. Probably everything, right? It's given me the ability to look at things from multiple different perspectives. It certainly has come in very, very handy in my work, both as a historian, but also as a current affairs specialist. One of the things, beside working as an academic, as a professor of history and politics and the political economy, is I also write public commentaries, most usually for the news website I'll monitor. So having a pretty eclectic set of experiences has really given me the ability to think like not only the other party, the person sitting across the table from me, but also third and fourth and fifth parties, or, you know, common folk who don't get to sit at the table. Because I have a lot of friends and family members who have very passing interest in politics, if any, but still occasionally they get curious about the goings on in the world, and they ask me or my brother. My brother's, as I said, a civil servant, and he isn't a very, very political. He works in very in highly charged political environments. So when you get those sorts of questions and look at how common folk approach these issues that you see on the news, etc., you get to have an appreciation of how the decisions that you're making, or how the advice that you're making, or how your analysis might affect common people or their perceptions. That gives you a sense of, as I said, sense of purpose and a sense of taking your work seriously. I don't really take myself as an individual seriously, but I take my work seriously. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the things I would say that I picked up in life. It's just basically an appreciation for people who are not me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you're abroad, I think six people I welcomed on my YouTube channel, and I asked this question for two of them, and they answered that they changed. Everything changed. Almost everything changed in their life. So I really wonder, as a Turkish person, the others were not Turkish, so I really wonder what things changed in your life when you were in the United States and Iraq, even Iraq. Maybe it's in the Middle East part, but I know that, something could be different. What things changed in your life when you were abroad?
Honestly, as I said, I started this expat route so early in my life that I honestly would not be able to answer that question, because I wouldn't know, right? Because I've been doing it since I was 6. As to one thing that definitely changed, for example, had I stayed home in Turkey, I definitely would have been a lot more closed-minded. So basically, piggybacking on what I said to your earlier question, I would have definitely looked at things, and I was definitely looking at things when in my teenage years, from a much Turkey-centric perspective. Whereas, Turkey has about 1% of the world's population, and has about 1% of global GDP. There's the rest of the 99% that's out there. Going to some of the places where the other 99% helped definitely allowed me to see also my country from a more critical point of view. Now, I still love my country. I wouldn't say I'm proud because it's something I can't control. I was born Turkish. I don't know anything else, but I definitely like being Turkish. I love how we make fun of ourselves. Of course, as a political analyst and historian, I also take a critical look at my country's history and present state of affairs, but it also gives me a sense of balance more than anything. So it has given me an appreciation for not being an extremist. I've really become a bit of a milquetoast, if you will, being a radical centrist, being as moderate and as well-balanced as possible to the point where I can be obsessed with it sometimes. But yeah, otherwise it has given me an appreciation for not being an extremist and the virtues of not being an extremist on a lot of things that you can think of.
Why Iraq?
Why Iraq? Why not? Well, so I finished my doctorate in 2014, and I had a couple of very good job leads in Washington, working in think tanks and private companies. But for some reason, there was about half a dozen of them, and all of them just came crashing down like dominoes. I had one job interview and several rounds set up. That one came crashing down. Right, I was going through that process. I had another wonderful lead, and just as this one crashed, this one was going in a good way, and then that one crashed. And this happened like 5 or 6 times. And then I realized that maybe there was something about me, or like I couldn't read on my face, but it just said, "Don't hire this guy." There was something written on my forehead that I thought, I had no luck. So I was going to start a company, but before I started a company, I basically started offering my services as an editor, as a consultant, as a writer for various companies, including what is now defunct American Turkish Council. This was an organization that was formed by various American and Turkish companies and endorsed, but not directly supported by the U.S. and Turkish governments to foster trade and investment and tourism between the United States and Turkey. So I ended up writing reports for them, and my work started to grow. Meanwhile, I started working as an editor for the news website Al Monitor, which I had already I had been writing articles for them for a while. So it all came very nicely together, and I went back home to Turkey in spring 2016 to get a new visa so that I can go back to the States and start working and start incorporate myself as a company, as they say, work all of that out, go out and hunt new clients. But then I got an offer from my current place of employment. And I thought, you know what, I can actually do the things I'm doing in DC while I'm on the other end of the world, because it's all on a computer, right? So then I got this job, and then the whole stuff happened in the United States from early 2017 onwards, and I actually foresaw that none of that was going in a good direction. And I thought, you know what, maybe I'll wait a couple of more years here. And then I started enjoying, while that was happening, 2017, 2018, I really enjoyed being here. Unfortunately, I lost my father. My father passed away in the spring of 2018, but that was also a sort of eureka moment for me, because I realized that because throughout that spring, I was able to visit Turkey once a month during my father's illness. His passing away was still sudden, but it wasn't completely out of the blue. Then I realized that, look, man, if I was in Washington, I could have only made it to the funeral, and that's it. There was no other way that I could have done it. Whereas here in Suli, I could hop on a plane, change planes in Istanbul, and then make my way to Ankara or Izmir, which was where they lived at the time, my mother and my father. So then I realized that there's also virtue in being very close to home. And if I'm going to move away, to a third-party spot in the future, it should definitely have a very quick and direct flight with Turkish Airlines back home to Turkey. So that's where that's that's how my thinking about the work evolved. And obviously, professionally speaking, I was also able to grow a lot in my current job. So I was originally hired as simply as a professor of history, but I was also asked to take part in various different projects, in various different student training work, competitions, being a coach to students on various different things. I was then last year asked if I wanted to work as the dean of students. It's a pretty busy office, so you work on the academic, emotional, and professional development and engagement of all of the university students here. So it's a lot of work, but the position has given me, being at AUIS, being here in Sule, has given me the ability to grow. I know it's a sort of cliche speak, how do you see yourself growing in this company in the next 5-10 years? But that really has happened for me. And so that would be one way I would explain and justify moving from Washington to Iraq. Obviously, a lot of people think in different terms. A lot of people are looking to go west, whereas I ended up going east. So that's, but I had a pretty good reason for it, I would say.
We have one question, actually. Would you be
again from Carl Malone?
National seems to feel more emotional, as I suppose to others.
Emotional, good question. But I don't think so. My answer would be no. Carl Malone, Carl. Sorry. I don't think emotions have. Maybe Turks get a little bit, worked up more easily when it's national issues and stuff. Yeah, but I've seen that happen in many different parts of the world. I lived in Virginia. I lived in Virginia for almost 6 years. I got my doctorate from the University of Virginia. Trust me, there are a lot of things where you get the people of Virginia, American people, to get emotional about things, in good ways and bad. I mean, they now have a president who is very emotional, who is, you see people very emotional from other parts of the world, even from Northern European societies that are thought to be, rather cold and reserved, or people from East Asia who are also known to be very, very balanced and whatnot. But I don't think you can actually boil that down to nationality. Maybe the Turkish average is higher than others, but you often see people from different parts of the world who are known to be reserved and whatnot, but they end up being extremely passionate. Or people coming from very passionate societies being as cold as, canned tuna, so to speak. So yes and no.
I think it's related with your personality, and if you're really sensitive, I mean, you always have reasons to cry. And if you're not, I mean, I think the type, how can I say it? The type of the characteristic Turkish people has changed, I guess, last 20 years with this new generation. So they're not really emotional. So the new generation has changed the Turkish typical profile, I guess. This is what I think.
You're absolutely right. And I would actually take that a step further and say that it's very hard to talk about any national profile anymore, right? The world is so globalized. People get exposed to a whole different set of stimuli that can you actually say that I'm a stereotypical Turk? Now, here's what though. When I go travel abroad and I meet people of different walks of life, especially members of the opposite sex, sometimes I do use that as a joke, especially when I'm going on dates and stuff like, oh, wait, you're from Ukraine, you're from Russia, you're from Italy, you're from Greece, or you're from Germany. By the way, fair warning, I'm a stereotypical Turk when it comes to, so some of them are put off by that, but many of them see the humor in what I'm saying and appreciate that I'm actually playing with sort of national images when I don't really mean that I am a stereotypical Turk. Because, as you said, in the last 25 years, I don't think there's really anything stereotypical about anyone anymore. In fact, if anything, you realize that they're clusters of people who may themselves be more stereotypical, but within each group, you would see huge variations among, individuals and stereotypes or archetypes, if you will. You'll have very cold people. You'll have very friendly people. Another issue I would raise, again, I know I'm still also answering the previous question by Malone Carl, but it depends on which emotion you're talking about, right? When you say a particular individual or human collective is being emotional, you can say which emotions, People demonstrate or carry many of them with themselves at any given time. So what does that even mean? I don't know. I welcome additional input on this.
By the way, I want to comment something. We normally speak Turkish when we are chatting, but now we are speaking English. It sounds weird for me. So I have another question. I mean, when you were in Iraq or also in the United States, what value and skills add yourself? Because it's a self-improvement. When you're abroad, when you're alone, you improve some of your skills. So let's just talk about a bit what things change around your skills, like communication skills, management skills, like maybe pre-conscious. I can say that sometimes we prejudge everything a lot when we are sitting from here and then just sitting and looking at it's really easy. So I always say that saying is easier than doing. So let's just talk about what type of value you add while you were abroad and what things you are missing about Turkey and maybe food. Mostly I was just really curious about to just eat Turkish food, but not actually.
Food would probably come third or fourth, depending on how you count. Honestly, the first thing or person I miss, the entity that I miss most about not being home is my mother. She's a whole ball of fun. She's the best person in the world. So she's the person I miss all the time. One thing I'm grateful about the current world we live in, though, is in technological terms, is these things that we have. So I get to talk to her 3 times a day, which I think, when in the summertime, when we go to the summer house, or in the spring or in the fall, or in the winter, when I visit her back in Ankara, and we're cooped up in her apartment, I don't think we actually interact 3 times a day. So there's that. But she's the first. Then it's my brother and his family, his wife, their kids, my niece and nephew, my friends' kids. So I guess that's 1, 2, 3. And then comes the culinary scene, my hometown. I lived in I still do. My neighborhood in Ankara is very, very nice. It's near Atakule. I don't know if you know Ankara, but I live near Atakule. And over the years, as Ankara grew exponentially, from a town of basically 1.5 million people to almost 6 million people now, much of that growth happened in other parts of the city. So the neighborhood density stayed basically the same. They ended up not touching any of the parks in my neighborhood. So that's just fantastic. In fact, as part of the so-called urban transformation projects, one of the most infamous shanty towns in Ankara, Dikmen, was transformed into this very posh valley with a lot of green parks. So now my parents, it's our back, the backside of the apartment is facing very nice parks and has a pretty decent vista, even though there are a lot of buildings surrounding us. So I'm very fortunate in that respect. The good thing is, of course, the campus here, my apartment building here in Suli also has a nice vista. But I do miss being in my hometown. I do miss being back at Bilkent. Bilkent University has a very nice campus. Our sister universities, Hacettepe and ODTÜ, Middle East Technical University, also they have great campuses. So I do miss having that, being in a forest in the middle of the city. That sense that sensation is something I am definitely missing here in Suli. But that's not necessarily something I can't live without. What else? I can also mention some of the things I don't miss. I don't miss the bickering. I don't miss the polarization. I don't miss people yammering at each other like they're enemies. That's definitely something I don't miss about being home. One of the nice things about being an expat is, you know, you feel you don't always have to get into the middle of every fight, because it's really not your fight. It's literally and metaphorically not your fight. I mean, where I am, and you know, in this part of the world, this place obviously, especially since 2003 when the Americans came in, has been the site of a lot of divisions and polarizations. And before that, it wasn't any better. Under Saddam, before that, but I have the advantage of not being a party to any of those conflicts because I'm a stranger, and nothing's going to ever change that. Even though I do specialize in Middle East history, among other things. But I don't have that luxury back home in Turkey. So that's again, there are a lot of things I miss. There are a lot of things I definitely don't miss. So yeah.
Okay, I am really curious about things. Okay, you are from Bilkent, we know it, and you really miss your neighborhood, your friends. But I really want to know that were you speaking English with the American accent when you were in Ankara? I mean, you know, when you speak with American accent, that means when you go to United States, you never feel it's weird. So tell us this for us.
I think I picked my American accent from my primary school teachers in Baghdad. There were a couple of them who were Iraqi Americans. So I think I just liked the way it sounded better, because I also had British teachers in Baghdad and also in Lebanon, and I simply liked the way the American accent sounded better to my ear. And well, I usually joke with my British friends about these sorts of things, about their, especially if they're actually English and from the London area. So if they have the sort of the acquired, you know, I think they call it the Queen's English, you know, the sort of more posh pronunciation. Even though, by the way, that's not the standard British accent. I mean, the way most English people speak English is very, very different than how Scottish people speak English or how Welsh people speak English. So there's a lot of variations in that respect. But I simply liked the way the American accent sounded better, and I had a lot of American professors at Bilkent. So I already had an ear for it, if you will, and then after 10 years in the US, obviously that stuck. And especially I was in the East Coast. I don't know, if I was in Texas, if I didn't go to college, or if I didn't go to grad school, ended up working as a ranch hand, you know, ended up working as a farmer, that sort of thing, with people with distinct Texan accents around me, then, you know, I would have ended up sounding a lot more like Bradley Cooper in American Sniper, one of them movies. So that could have happened too. I wouldn't know.
For example, sometimes I hear some American people that they really don't speak proper American English. They just use it like a very rude way. So, I mean, when you were living in United States, I know that when you were in Baghdad, and so you just improved. Let me show my. So you didn't feel 100% confident about your English. Tell us one story. I mean, I'm really curious as a Turkish English speaker. So you speak simply and avoid a conversation when you were in the United States of the first. Maybe I know you are from Bilkent and you studied in Baghdad. Even all these things in your life, did you have anything? Any story that you didn't want to talk, for example, very academic area that you were not feeling able to speak it, or you didn't have anything like that?
I have to go back to what I said at the beginning of the conversation, which is that shame button or shame dial or lights that normal people have. I don't have that, so I never felt that. Even when I'm learning a new language, I immediately just wade right into it. I pretend I already know it. I just have to turn what's already in my head into words, into sounds, meaningful sounds. That's how I went about. Whenever I had problems, though, and I was fortunate enough that when I would mispronounce or say something incorrectly or say something offensive culturally, which has happened, by the way. My first year in the U.S. was not easy in that respect, because Americans are sensitive about different things than people in different parts of the world, and things that Americans are not sensitive about. Someone like me, someone like me could be sensitive about. So that was more of a problem than the language aspect. But you could say that they're related, because culture and language, ideas in language are so intertwined. It's not easy to draw a thick line saying this is where language ends, this is where culture starts. So in that respect, being shy or not being confident about my speaking abilities, even in my younger days when my English wasn't even that good, it did not prevent me from speaking up. And sometimes I would actually have moments of, part of my Turkish, brain farts, or my brain would be just completely clouded. I would either just blurt out something extremely stupid, or just not talking. I have no idea what I'm saying, but I think this makes a lot of sense. Going in that again didn't stop me from shutting up. As you can tell, it's not very easy to shut me up.
Yeah.
I do like talking, but although I'm trying to grow over it, as I get older, I also am beginning to develop a huge appreciation for solitude and quiet, especially in my personal space. But that was never a problem for me. Whereas initially some cultural misunderstandings were an issue, and so therefore you can say that yes, that did prevent me from sometimes speaking up when I saw something that was absolutely unacceptable, but I knew it would not be welcome by local folks. Then I said, maybe I should sit this one out. Maybe I should keep my thoughts to myself on it. So it wasn't language, it was cultural incompatibility.
So you never have psychological barriers of English speaking, because you had natural learning methodologies. I want to give a little bit clue about this, which you gave me this. For example, when we were kids, we always listen and repeat it. So this learning methodology called natural learning system. So whatever we do, we listen and we practice. We see it and we practice it. Any skill can be improved this way. So when you were in a primary school, you listen only American teachers. So you got accent from them, because you remember that we have an idiom that however you do 7 to 79, you never change. So you made all the skills up to 7 years age. So that means you got this accent while you were in Iraq. So you're having the potential. Yeah. Potential.
By the way, I should also mention here, my most influential high school teacher, Mrs. Yvonne Nasser, a British lady married to a Lebanese. She had a very beautiful British accent. This was a beautiful British lady who spoke proper English, and she insisted while we were writing or speaking in class, that our grammar had to be impeccable. But she never called us out on our American accent. A lot of my friends were Lebanese Americans. We had some Lebanese Brits in my class, but they were far and few in between. But Mrs. Nasser never made an issue out of that. But she did make an issue out of how we use the language grammatically, and how we use the proper words and the grammar constructions and sentence construction. So I don't want to just dismiss, British folks out of hand, thinking that they don't really have a say in it. I mean, the language literally is called English. So, I can't be too dismissive of it. But sorry, I cut you off. But I just wanted to be clear in case once I started yammering again, I forgot this train of thought. So it was important. She had a huge impact on my ability in my command of English, be it spoken English or written English. I owe a lot to her, and also to my professors in college and grad school. So sorry about that.
No, I'm not talking about the accent. I'm talking about just having that ability. As much as you're young, you get it easily. But when you get older, as an adult, you have to put a target to get it. So, okay, I have to study English. No, I always say that you have to listen more, immerse English direct to your life. Otherwise, you cannot do it. Like you're the one example, maybe role model for this. Thank you for this, by the way. So I didn't get my answer from Iraq. What did you add as ability, skills from Iraq? Because you have been living in Iraq around 4 years. So in an American culture, you are now with international people. So you are learning a lot from your higher level of managers or some people around you, maybe some other professors. So what value you add on this path and this career or this journey?
Well, the adding goes both ways, right? I like how your question is phrased. What I contribute to the environment here is exactly what I contribute to the environment here is obviously I'm still a teacher and now I'm the dean of students. So one of the things I do is engage in a set of initiatives, although the pandemic really messed us up in that respect. I had a very nice training program set up in the late spring and in the fall, but then a host of other things happened that derailed that. But one of the things I do both as a teacher and now as dean is to, for example, insist upon our students' care and attention when they're writing things. One of the biggest problems that I face among young people these days is they're a little lackadaisical about how they write, including and starting with emails. Many of them write emails without a subject line, which is one of my big pet peeves. They don't address the other party properly without an honorific sometimes, or the wrong honorific. They don't write. They don't get to the point quickly enough, or they write with extremely poor spelling, poor punctuation, things of that sort. So I make a point at the beginning of every semester in training videos now, but also in orientations, but when we had that sort of thing last year, is to make sure that students understood exactly how to behave in an adult environment. That was one of the things, and that was way before I was dean. My first week here, I told students that, this is how this is how I operate. This is not a negotiation either. I'm not offering this to you as a set of things that you can either accept or reject. No, you either take them all or you will fail this class. So it was also in that respect a good introduction to the students on how the world really operates, because in the Middle East, there is a sense, and Turkey is to a large extent also guilty of this. There's an expectation that the rules don't really apply to a person, or they shouldn't because of their special circumstances, whatever those special circumstances might be. And I'm completely the opposite of that when it comes to work. If we have rules, then they should be implemented on everyone indiscriminately. If you don't want to be a part of the process, you don't want to be a part of the place, of the system, and you don't want to be part of the process. No one is forcing you to do anything. That's the nice thing about the age that we live in. Humanity has abolished slavery. We don't have serfdom. Most of us, more than half of us, live in, roughly speaking, open and democratic societies. And even in countries that are pretty closed and authoritarian, people still have many different ways of pursuing their interests and the things that they care about and the things that they love. So, no one is forcing anyone to be here, I tell them. Because one of the things that I find with a lot of students, and apparently this is a problem, for example, at English language universities such as Bilkent and ODTÜ and Hacettepe back in Turkey, or Boğaziçi, where students have this attitude that, you know what, the readings are too much in this class. How am I going to do this many reading, that much reading for just one class? And by the way, the numbers I'm talking about are 40 or 50. But then I impress upon the students that this is not a negotiation, because, your peers at an actual American university might be expected to read more than 200 or 300 pages a week, and sometimes for only one class. And you are coming to a university that calls itself the American University of Iraq-Süleymaniye. I'm sorry, I am here to give those standards to you. They hired me out of the University of Virginia for that reason, because I'm not going to negotiate with you, because I am going to force you to do better. So it is that mindset that I am bringing here, that I can do better and I have to do better if I'm going to, surpass my own limitations, if I'm going to remove the obstacles in my life that prevent me from operating more effectively, from being a better worker, being a better citizen, being a better human being. As to what I take away from my current line of work is, I would say, this job definitely has taught me to be a lot more patient, has definitely taught me to put my, anger, put a lid on my anger. So again, going back to an earlier question by Malone Carl, your viewer, I don't know if most Turkish people are easy to, upset, but I used to be very easy to just, get enraged and, get a, raging red face. But this job definitely has given me an appreciation to approach issues much more calmly, much more objectively, in a way where I don't bring in my emotions into it too much.
Yeah,
and when I do, they are the right emotions. Sorry?
You're a professional. You're a professional. I mean, if I live and work in Iraq or any other country, I never say anything about it, because I fit myself from their country.
Well, yes, but on the other hand, here, one of the nice things being a cosmopolitan university of the sort is that we have people from all over the world, right? We have people from, yes, I'm actually thinking we even have a colleague from South America. So we actually have people from all of the major continents here. So, that tells you something. So I honestly, I keep that aspect of it to the side. In fact, I actually sent a student an email today exactly with that line. This has got nothing to do with my being Turkish or someone being Kurdish or Iraqi or Arab or Persian, whatever. None of that matters. What is the rule? That's the rule. Is the rule giving you any exceptions for the sorts of exceptions that you're asking for? No. Then I'm sorry. We're going to go with what the rule says. The fact that we're in a pandemic also doesn't change that, because given the way that the world is going, we might have another pandemic like this in 10 or 20 years once this one recedes. We have to develop, the skills, the capabilities, and the frame of mind that is going to allow us to operate better. And I have to say, again, this job has given me an appreciation to develop that sort of psyche too. So I think a former, an old Roman saying goes something like, when people teach, they learn. I definitely am the proof of that. I do learn a lot from the process of teaching itself. So I add a lot of that to me. And also, not to kiss up to my bosses here, but I also really love my my vice president, my immediate supervisor, and the president of the university. I mean, these guys are both were both extremely accomplished corporate executives before they moved over to academia. One of them worked as an academic administrator. The other one actually moved over to academia after the private sector, got his MBA and went up to get a PhD in marketing, and has been working as both a university administrator and professor for 2 decades. And our president is no different. He started with his friends out of Harvard, a company that became a multi-billion-dollar company that was later on acquired by a major defense contractor in the United States. But the way that they look at things, it's almost like a free, MBA training for me. It's almost like one of them is German, the other is American. So it's almost like working at the best business schools in the United States and Germany. So in that respect, I also feel extremely lucky. That's because when you see how they operate, how they write emails, how they run meetings, how they deal with problems, or sometimes not deal with problems. When they sometimes say, this is not that important, I have more urgent and important things I need to focus on right now. You start to develop, as an administrator, the ability to prioritize tasks, the ability to set priorities. That's extremely important in life. I've definitely taken that from my current line of work, I would say.
Okay, my last question is, would you advise people to go abroad and try new things and work any other country as wherever they want, and then try and experience living abroad, working as an expat?
Absolutely. In life, you only regret the things you didn't try to do. You never regret the things that you did do. Not really. You may have regrets about how you went about certain things, but you never regret, the things that you actually accomplished or tried to accomplish. Whereas most of the regrets that we have in life are things that we either never tried or we never really seriously tried. I wish I had traveled more. I wish I had traveled to X, Y, and Z country. I wish I had told that guy or that gal how much I liked her. Maybe my life would have taken a different turn. I wish I had read more books. I wish I had done this and that. We always regret the things that really didn't happen to us. We don't, we either feel gratitude or indifference for the things that we did do, for the things that we did accomplish. But so to your viewers, you'll be doing yourself a disservice in life if you don't take chances, if you don't take a shot. That's the only way to go forward.
I always say that. Please try it, otherwise, or do it. Actually, trying is something like I may do it or not, but do it like a one really love brand is motto is just do it. We always think, but just make your decision and do it. Otherwise, you will be always keeping yourself in this dilemma, and then yeah, I wish I could. No, just go and try that experience and tell everybody that I've done it. That's my accomplishment so far now. Thank you, Barın.
My pleasure. If I were very briefly add something to what you just said, one of the things about failing at a thing is that you still learn a lot about yourself and how to fail less next time. So failure is actually not failure. So people should also consider that. People should also keep that in mind.
Well, I just posted, let's say 1 or 3 months ago, I don't remember that. I was just saying that Einstein or other discoverers or they tried many times. I mean, 10 times, not 10 like them, not like 10 times, they thousands of times they tried, but they never give up on something, whatever they really wanted. So if you are the passionate about to reach something, so I know that whole universe will try to add that value on your life. I guess.
We all hope so.
Thank you very much, Barın. I promised myself to not to speak Turkish, so I have to close. Like goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Let me give you a very Turkish way. Bye.
Bye bye. See you.
Thanks for having me on the show, Funda. It was really nice talking to you. Hope your viewers benefit from this. I definitely benefited from this. Thank you for having me.
Same here. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
Ciao. Bye bye.